Hey there, everybody. Jimmy to the top crane here. Let's see, who do we have waiting? Looks like we got two people on so far. One thumbs up, so that's good. So don't really have anything planned to talk about. I just haven't done a live stream for about a month, so I figured I'd jump on and shoot the breeze with everybody, see how everybody's doing, let you guys know a little bit about what we got coming up. Next week, we got a busy week. Let's see, what all do we have to do? I got to take one of our Manitex 5128s up to a job site about an hour north of us, do some work, and then Tuesday we're setting the big crane up at our local casino. We're going to pull some 11,000 pound air conditioning units off of the roof at about 150-foot radius. So that'll probably be a pretty good one. We'll have full counterweights. We're doing that Tuesday, and then Wednesday setting a house in Iowa, and then Thursday going back to the casino and doing another unit, same radius, same size unit. And then Friday we have to go, I think we're going over by Chillicothe, Missouri to do some precast box culvert stuff in the middle of a one-lane road. So it's going to be a busy one. Let's see. Yolandi Ninja, you had. I'll just call you Ninja, so hopefully that works out. It says, hi, man, love your video. Thanks for that. And I want to welcome all the new subscribers to the channel. That latest video I uploaded with that wind turbine tower section is really starting to take off. For this channel, that video is doing extremely well. I think I've gained close to 300 subscribers since I uploaded it. So, West Coast Kenny, how are you doing? Ninja says, I'm an apprentice. I finish in 1 month. Well, good. Learn as much as you can in that apprenticeship. And then when you get out of the apprenticeship, learn as much as you can on the job. I mean, this profession is all about knowledge. The more you know, the more you'll work and the more valuable you are to a company. And typically, the more you know, the safer you'll be. Mike Newcomb, glad to see you, Jimmy. We need more videos. I've got a lot of footage saved on the computer, and I took close to probably 3 weeks off of YouTube. We've been busy at work, and just people that don't create videos, I guess people that aren't YouTube creators probably don't understand the amount of work that goes into it. It is a tremendous amount of work. Then your business, how are you doing? Says, what's up? But it is, I mean, YouTube can be another full-time job. Noel Tech, how are you doing, Noel Tech? And so, you know, there are times when I have to just step back and something's got to give. And unfortunately for you all, it's typically YouTube that I back burner for a little while. Ninja says a lot of calculation. I confirm. John Warren, how are you doing, John? Rail and CJ, how are you? But yeah, that last video, it's been a popular one. None of your business. I am still working on Thor's hammer. I haven't done anything with Thor's hammer for several months, but it is now cooling off to where I can go out and work in my garage in the evenings and not have to worry about cooking. John Myers, how are you doing? Says hi from down under. You guys are just coming out of winter and going into spring, I think. Beyond the Pick, how are you doing? URL Tower, hello. John Warren says been sick all weekend. Well, that's no good. 45 Nuts, how are you doing, 45 Nuts? I don't know. I've been a little stuffy the last few days. My wife says it's allergies. I'm hoping I'm not getting sick. Hopefully she's right. But Real CJ said seen a heck of a crane hook set up 9 parts of line. I can run with my big block and what we have for the Tadano. I can run 14 parts, but it is slow as molasses. Red Army, how are you doing? None of your businesses. Last video, the one where you're clean. That's the one where I was pulling the wind turbine tower section out of the ditch. Andy B, how are you doing, Andy B? Let's see. Ninja says, I will do my exam on a link belt crawler 65 ton. Any advice? Just make sure it's level or you'll be fighting it the whole time. And I'm sure it's probably set up on a good level pad, but if it's not perfectly level, that crawler is going to want to drift and you'll be constantly trying to correct the drift. John Meyer says, yes, fire restrictions are already enforced in Victoria. Red Army says, do you ever operate if you are not within 1 degree of level? If you're not within 1 degree of level, then your load chart's not good. So operating outside of that parameter is not a good practice. Woofy W, how are you doing? Ryan Holt, how are you? Yeah, it really surprised me how much that cleanup video has kind of gone crazy. Blue Line Landworks, how are you doing, Blue Line? Hope things are well with you guys out there on the west side of the country. I'm curious to see where that video is going to end up doing. I think it's like 300% more views right now than what a typical video that I put up gets. So I'll be curious to see what ends up happening with it. I know it was shared on one of the big wrecker forums on Facebook, but I can't see it. It's a private group and I can't see it. Trent with Plaza Towing actually sent me a screenshot showing me where it had been shared to that towing page on Facebook, but I can't go on and see how it's doing on there. So Construction Cronies, Chris, how are you doing, Chris? Blue Line says, what's my most viewed video? I'm not sure. I think I've got a video with like 35,000 views. That's the most I've gotten on a video on here. I really thought that video where I put the camera on the ball, looking down on the tower section when we were putting the top of that cell phone tower on, I figured that one would take off. But Woofy W said, doing good here, a bit on the cold side though. It was pretty chilly here Friday morning. I think it was 29 degrees. Von Heels, how are you doing, Von Heels? I'm going to sneak a peek, though, and see what that video is doing right now. Last I checked, it was doing about 300 views an hour, which is pretty good for my channel. Frank Hartmeyer, hi, Jimmy. Your last video of the tower rescue was real good. Showed good 2-crane pick scenario. Thanks for that. Yeah, it looks like it's running about pretty close to 300 views an hour, which is spectacular for me. Ninja says, really wish you would do a video about how to calculate gravity center. That's the only thing I don't know yet. I could see about throwing something together on that. And really sometimes on calculating center of gravity, you almost have to delve into engineering, especially with like machinery, like presses and air conditioning units, stuff like that. It can be very deceiving where the center of gravity is, because you might have, say, an air conditioning unit might have all the compressors at one end, and at the other end, it's just going to be the condenser. And so it's going to be picked really heavy off to one side. But let's see. Husey Tube asked a good question. So if one of your company cranes tipped over, would you call a towing company to recover it, or just use your crane? We would just recover it ourselves. Josh Wellner, how are you doing? And then your business is 18,000. Why you never stand under a load? That one was doing really good, and then all of a sudden it died out. So I don't know what happened with that. Blue Line says he hasn't posted in a while. Pretty much just hold steady at 2,500 to 3,000 per day. That's good for not uploading. Red Army says I work for a building supply company. I operate a boom truck every day. I'm hardly ever level, often on soft ground. My front stabilizer hasn't worked in a few months. You, as an operator, you actually reserve the right to refuse to operate that machine, especially with the fact that the front outrigger is not working. And I understand on a boom truck, as long as you're not going over the front, you sometimes won't need that. But those are things that, would tag the machine out. Ninja says, what about a cylinder with half liquid in it? I'm not sure what you're asking there. Riley Garrett, how are you doing? Francisco Gonzalez says, look up NCCO Riggers reference book. That one gives you formulas for center of gravity. Crane Mech finally made it to a live stream. Blue Line, that's true. He says it's hard to interpret YouTube's algorithms for how they suggest a video. Von Hill says, it never ceases to amaze me how the camera distorts distances. That's why I asked about your radius in the last video. I was going to guess about 50 feet, but it didn't look that far in camera. It really does. The camera, finding the perfect setting for each pick is hard to do. So I just kind of leave it on one setting and roll with it. Andy B asks, Christmas is not that far away. You're going to have another raffle for children. I am going to do another silent auction. I'm trying to decide what to put in it this year. So I'll probably get a hold of Sedano and see if they want to contribute something to it, and then I'll throw some other stuff with it. And I'm hoping to be able to match it up to a certain amount. Woofy W, any news on Thor's hammer? I am going to start working on Thor's hammer again next weekend, and I will record some footage of it and upload it. Nathaniel Lee says, do you need anything Blue Wrench to watch the chat? I think what you're asking is if I need more Blue Wrenches to watch chat. It looks like I've got several moderators on here tonight. I don't know. I don't have a habit of just throwing Blue Wrenches on everybody. But I mean, I will give you the power. Use it appropriately. Jose asks, I watch your videos a lot. I'm curious, do you run just large and small? Or do you also run lattice boom crawlers? I don't get in lattice booms. The company I'm with, we only have one, and it's an old link belt. And it's an old friction rig set up for clamming out of a barge, and we don't do much of that, and so I don't get in lattice booms. I haven't been in a lattice boom crane since 2016. And on your business as an operator, you have the responsibility to operate safely for you and everyone else on site. That being said, you have liability if there's an accident, especially if that's a fact. Chris DeBow, how are you doing? Andy B does have a Blue Wrench. Junkie Studios, how are you doing? He says, what is this? Junkie Studios, evidently this is his first time to the channel. This is a channel that is primarily focused on crane operation, crane construction equipment. Sometimes we work on some stuff here and there. Josh Wellner says, I've taken pictures of waves and the video camera flattens the waves out and doesn't look good when I look back at the picture or video. Doug Ward, how are you doing, Doug? Says don't need a wrench. Wayne Tharp, how are you doing, Wayne Tharp? Justin Heil, hey Jimmy, how are you? There he says, hey Jimmy, what's up? How are you doing, Justin? Junkie Studios, I used to do live streams twice a month, and I've cut them back to doing them about once a month. But yeah, it's just to hang out and people ask questions. And I mean, we talked about everything from trucks to I don't know, heater cores, broken equipment, you name it, we've talked about it on here. Nathan Mitz, liked your video on the wind turbine section. How close were you to the power lines? We were about 22 feet away from the power lines. And I couldn't really tell in the video how close it looked, but we were about 22 feet away. Blue Line, thanks for the $2, Blue Line. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Do I do any hunting? I used to hunt a lot. Whitetail are really popular around here, and I used to do a lot of whitetail hunting. When I was a kid, we used to do a lot of bird hunting, and birds have kind of disappeared around here. There's not a lot of pheasant and quail, but I haven't been out in the woods hunting for a couple of years. Von Hill says the old skid steer video brought back some memories, got to say. And I threw that in there. That's actually old footage. That footage was recorded back in March. And, it's been hanging out on my computer. I'm like, hey, let's do something different. So I had that backhoe video a while back, and I figured it'd be a good one to kind of throw in there behind that backhoe video. So that's why I put it out there. None of businesses. What is this? It's an opportunity for his viewers, which many aren't crane operators, to ask questions and understand how he does what he does and why he does what he does. That's a good way of putting it, none of your business. Willard Osborne, I like your videos. Thanks for that, Willard. Crane mechanics. It's getting harder to find conventional operators. Everyone wants to run the squirt booms and don't want to beat pins. I can see that. Doug Ward, bad brake jobs sometimes. Yeah, there's that. So Junkie Studios, feel free to stick around and partake if you want to partake. And I try to make this channel as much about the subscribers as it is anything else. I try to make videos of stuff that people want to see and give the subscribers a lot of input. Or actually, I take a lot of the subscriber input and try to use it accordingly to make videos. Nathan Mitt said in the video it looked close. My company has a 20-foot minimum for power lines. Yeah, we were about 22 feet. Josh Wellner says you need to take your kids hunting. Just saying. My daughter likes to shoot. She's not real big on hunting, but she likes to shoot. My son likes to shoot, and I've taken him in the woods hunting several times. He just doesn't have a lot of patience. He can't sit still for a long period of time. Blue Line says, just shot my best bull elk. I'll text you a pic. And I've got an opportunity to do some muley hunting and elk hunting out in southern Colorado. That's where my in-laws live. So I may make a trip out there one of these days and do some of that. Let's see, John Myers. In the U.S., when do you have to have an operator's ticket? Ours is 5 ton and over. Now in the U.S., anything capable of lifting a ton, I believe, 2,000 pounds. If it's crane, it's got to have certification. Von Heels, based on what happened last live stream, we should put a ban on talking about crane failures. Sid Vicious, how are you doing, Sid Vicious? Hope things are going well down there. Doug Ward says, some jerk shot a mama moose and her 2 calves out here and just left them to rot. That's terrible. Andy B, so the other crane in the cleanup video out of your stable, it is one of our cranes. It's our Tadano 80-4, so it's a 100 hydro. Let's see. I'm not sure why that one comment got hidden. None of your business said, and it was hidden. I think it was hidden by accident, but it says, isn't the OSHA standard 10 feet for every one? I guess it'd be 10,000 volts. That power line was a 13,000 volt power line. Von Heels, but on that note, when you're rigging the whip line, do you rig the piece to be able to pick it with a single winch in case something like that happens? The way the computer is set up in the Tadano, the whip line can only be run as a single part. When I turn that function on for the auxiliary winch in the computer, it won't let me change the parts of line on the whip line. Motorhead 1, how are you doing? Ryan Holt got some seat time yesterday and 100 ton on second step apprentice, and I got to say it's a lot harder than you make it look, Jimmy. It's all in what you get used to. And I guess I take it for granted, but some people that watch the videos are probably like, man, that looks pretty easy. I can go out and do that. I do it every day, so I kind of take it for granted and say that it probably is easy. But someone that hasn't ever been in the seat would probably struggle with it. Cranes are one of the most complex machines that you'll find on a construction site, and they require a lot more mental application than anything else on a job site as far as machinery goes. MSL logging, how are you doing, MSL? Francisco Gonzalez, have I ever done any refinery or chemical plant work in the past? We've got some refineries in the area, but they're down around Wichita, and I've had the opportunity to go down and work some refinery shutdowns, but I haven't made the trip down there. I'm probably going to stay where I'm at unless things unless something catastrophic happened as far as, with the company. Maybe, if the company closed up shop or something, I would have to go somewhere else, but I'll probably stay where I'm at. And we don't do any refinery work. There's no refineries in our area. We do some chemical plant work, but it's minor chemical stuff, nothing on a large scale, and then some power plant work. Brent Studemeyer, how long did it take you to go through the zigzag course for your NCCCO test? I don't even remember what the time was. I can't. I mean, that's been so long ago. I don't remember what the time was. I think it was in about half the amount of time allotted. But I did a lot of practicing, for a few weeks up to that point. And the zigzag course, a lot of people don't know it, but it's actually designed to replicate swinging a concrete bucket over the top of open forms. So, I mean, as long as you keep it under control, you can get through them pretty fast. And typically they're set up to where you only have to run 2 functions at a time. So if you start off away from you and you bring it towards you, if you keep it really close to the ground and then just boom straight up, and I think it's set up as an offset, but if you boom straight up and swing just a little bit, you should be able to get all the way to the first turn without pulling the chain off the ground. And then you can cable down a little bit, and then you can swing left and boom up, and then do the same thing to come back to the end, and then just do that in reverse to get back out the other end. Hope that made sense. But let's see. Motorhead Once isn't a friction rig operator in hydro. Sid Vicious, I'm sure you already mentioned the New Orleans wreck. What happened there? I have not mentioned the New Orleans wreck. I've only seen a few videos, and from what I saw on the video and from what I read, supposedly the tower crane had something on the hook and caught something or hit something. I don't know. And like I said, this is just what I've read. I haven't actually seen a good enough detailed video to know for sure, but supposedly the tower crane maybe got into support for either a personnel elevator or a material elevator or something and caused it to collapse. And then basically 1/3 of the building fell down. That to me tells me that something was wrong with that building long before any of that other stuff happened. You shouldn't be able to hit a column on a building and take 1/3 of it down. I mean, that's I don't know, that something just doesn't seem right about that. I haven't dug that deep into it yet. Let's see. Any Business says New Orleans. I think they loaded the deck of the top floor with an excessive amount of material, or the post tension cables in the concrete failed, which is entirely possible too. I don't, like I said, I don't know, but for that much of a building to fall just because of one column or one post tension cable, something was wrong long before that. Frank Hartmeyer asks, "Hey Jimmy, on a different note, what's your take on the NCCCO Rigor 1 and Rigor 2 cert? We are starting to train out people, and I have different feelings." I'm not overly familiar with the NCCCO stuff. I've got my certification through our local union. I'm a member of Local 101, and I know NCCCO breaks their stuff up differently than what we do. So I'm not overly familiar with the Rigor 1 versus Rigor 2. Motorhead 1 says summer pretension slab planks. Sid Vicious said, "I've seen a couple crane wrecks, but man, that looked bad." And I wouldn't say that New Orleans thing wasn't a crane wreck. Both those tower cranes are still erected. I wouldn't have wanted to have been in the seat of one of them. That one that was closest to the camera on the video I watched, that thing was going crazy. Brent Stoudemire says, "Thanks for the advice. I just took the test last week, and I think I failed since I went way over on time." Just take it again. I don't know how many times you can take it before you have to go back through everything, but I've seen a lot of people that struggle with on the test where they're trying to boom up, cable down, and swing all at the same time. And if you, like I said, if you start off with it in the circle away from you and you're bringing it towards you, just barely get that weight off the ground and then just boom it straight up. You should be able to get all the way to the first turn before you have to do anything as far as with your winch. That 3 feet of chain should still be touching the ground. And then cable down a little bit once you get it stopped and in that corner, and then swing left and stop and cable down some more, and then boom it up, and you should be good. You shouldn't have to run multiple functions as long as you set yourself up for it. Doug Ward says, "I remember the days of pouring basement walls with a crane and concrete bucket, mostly pumps now." We still fly a concrete bucket every now and then. We've got a couple of them. Nathaniel Lee, we do own a crawler crane, but I don't get in it. Von Hill says, "What additional licensing above a Class A is required to drive the carrier crane on the highway?" There is none. I've got a Class A and a current DOT medical card, and we just need a permit. Mike Manfred, how are you doing, Mike? And I haven't forgotten about sending you stickers. Just it's been a little chaotic, but I'll get some out to you. Motorhead 1, crumbly concrete, not enough rebar. Sid Vicious, yeah, it seemed like they were lacking a lot on the reshoring for it to pancake like that. Yeah, they had other stuff. They had other issues for 1/3 of the building to come down from something like that. Josh Wellner asks, "How many different certifications do I have? Like operating or mechanicing or both?" With operating, I've got my rigging signal person, forklift, OSHA 10, hazmat, crane certs. What else do I have in there? I've got a stack of stuff in my wallet. CPR first aid. Mechanic, and I've got about, I would say probably close to 50 to 70 different certifications from various manufacturers for factory training on working on equipment. Genie Industries, Skyjack, JLG, Snorkel, Bobcat Case, John Deere, just about every major brand of heavy equipment. Linda Sherman, how are you doing? Nathaniel Lee, can I do a walk around of the crawler crane? I can next time I'm down there. It's an old Link Belt 318. I've got a video on it on here. I think it was last year. Von Hill says that's a lot of axles and steel to be rumbling down the highway without some sort of additional training, in my opinion. I don't disagree. The way our company approaches it is like I drive our Tadano 180 to the job sites. If Mike, my oiler, decided that he wanted to start driving it to the job sites or wanted to start getting in the seat, I would put him in the driver's seat and we would go do some driving long before he ever jumps in it and takes off on his own. None of businesses, I sense your aversion to crawlers. Is it more complicated to operate lattice crawler, or is it simply not comfortable inside the cab? I have nothing against crawlers except for the one that we own is an old friction rig, and it's got a clam on it. And so it would be very monotonous to be in the seat of that crane. And I don't have much experience at all with a friction crane. And with a friction crane, if one misstep and you drop the boom or you drop the ball, so you need someone in the seat of a friction crane that has some seat time with one. I'm not one of those people. So that's my aversion to our crawler. Other crawlers, I mean, they're great machines. The only thing with a crawler is when you're walking them, if you walk with your boom too steep or laid out too flat, you can get yourself in trouble. If your pad's not level, you're constantly fighting it. But I mean, crawler cranes are great at what they do. They're pretty fast as far as swinging because their booms are typically lighter until you get into the bigger ones, and they excel at moving around a job site. King 2042 says, sorry, late to the party here. What building has collapsed? They were working on a Hard Rock hotel down in, I think it was New Orleans or down in Louisiana. Andy B asked, do you watch Pepe's towing about the concrete truck ran off an embankment into a house? Then they drug it a city block to load it. I haven't watched the video yet. I saw it on Instagram. Sid Vicious says, all right, Tortellini is ready. Got to go. See you guys later. Have a good evening, Sid Vicious. And Motorhead One says, Link Belt LS 318 is a duty cycle clamshell crane. That's why we've got it. Von Hill says, that's the correct way to do it. Honestly, you probably should not be driving crane if you have not at least started down the path of becoming an operator of it. And the thing with Mike is Mike had his crane certification and he let it expire, and now he's working on getting it again. But Mike is a very, very good crane operator. Just because he's the oiler in a lot of my videos, you guys don't discount him on his knowledge. I need to get him in here on a live stream like he said he would, but he's a very good operator. And he's the one you guys heard on the radio when we were pulling that wind turbine tower section out of the ditch. He was the one giving us direction. Frank Hartmeyer says, how does your boom dolly pull? A lot of tail wagging or pull straight? That thing runs straight as a string down the road. I love that dolly. The way it's set up, it's the only thing that sucks about that dolly is backing it up because it pivots in the center. It's basically a four-wheel wagon. but it follows the track of the crane perfectly. So I can be driving down a 2-lane highway and turn into a wide gate without having to swing a ridiculous amount of distance out to the left before turning right. I mean, I can get into places with it you can't get a semi with a 48-foot trailer. W Pro 3, have you guys been using that old link belt crawler? We have not used it yet to unload a barge. Woofy W says, dang, they just showed a video of the Hard Rock on ABC News. Von Hill says, yes, I would not be concerned with Mike in the seat. He seems to really know his stuff. And he does. He does know his stuff. And as crazy as it sounds, Mike and I have known each other since high school. And our families spend time together. My wife and I were with he and his wife all day yesterday down in Kansas City, just messing around. But Mike and our families spend time together outside of work as well. He just lives a few miles away. They're over here a lot for dinner. And so there is a lot of trust between Mike and I. And also when I'm setting up to do something that's like very stressful, something I've put a lot of thought into, it's actually comforting for me to have Mike with me because I know he is double checking everything that I'm looking at and he knows what he's looking for. So it's reassuring for me to know that he's there double checking my work. John Warren says, Jimmy, I got to go get up at 2:30 to go to work. Well, I hope you get to feeling better, John. 2:30 is early. Be on the pick. Jimmy, does your outfit do any oil field related crane work? We don't have any oil fields around here. I mean, there's a few oil wells here and there, but none to really speak of. None your business says, do all the tires on the Tadano steer? They do. It is 10-wheel steer. Blue Line says, what is the YouTube channel I watch the most? I don't really, as crazy as it seems, I don't really watch a lot of YouTube channels. As far as watching the most, I don't know. I kind of just look at random stuff. It's hard for me to sit down and watch 15 or 20-minute videos. And to me, I would rather, for the creator's sake, I would rather not watch 2 minutes of someone's 15-minute video because it kind of hurts their watch time. And so I don't click on a lot of the people that I know because if I'm not going to get to sit down and watch it for 15 or 20 minutes, I don't sit down and watch it. But I don't know. It's just kind of this old Tony. I watch a lot of his stuff. I would say I enjoy this old Tony videos the most because of his editing. His editing is pretty neat. And I've actually tried to emulate some of that in that last video. And I'm probably going to, since I've picked up some new editing toys, I'll probably hide some stuff in some future videos. We'll see if people can find it. It'll be neat to watch people comment in the comments when they do find it. So let's see. Von Hill says, if you want some entertainment or are newer to the channel, go watch some of Jimmy's videos trying to back up the dolly into small places. There's a couple videos, I think, or one of them in particular that I really struggled with that dolly, backing it in off of a road into basically a drive. Tyler Kinsey says, Jimmy, I just took my NCCO written test on Friday. I have a completely different view of operators because there's a lot of things you have to know. And our instructor said, see you on anything unsure. Frank Hartmeyer says, I've been on some where you're more tired after driving than working. That's a fact. I've done jobs where just driving there was far more fatiguing than doing the actual job. I'm probably going to butcher that name. I think Milomer or Milomer. How are you doing? Nathaniel Lee says, I think you're asking how many cranes do we have? 2, 4, 5, 8 cranes. Teacher Haggis, how are you doing? Says greetings from New Zealand. A couple things that are different here. Many of our upper work cabs are right-hand drive. That would be different. In addition, we tend to use the word slew instead of swing. And he says, great work. Thanks for that. And some people here call it slewing. Some people call it swinging. It's one is interchangeable with the other. None of your business said, did your dad ever start a YouTube channel for his barbecue? I actually created the channel and we never put any content on it. Update on my parents. They are now completely retired. They have sold out their vending trailer. They've sold out their refrigeration and freezers. I think I'm not sure if his smoker sold, but they are completely retired. So even if I would have got some footage on his channel, his channel would now be pretty much without content because he is doing nothing but hanging out and probably going to do some fishing. Von Heel says, hopefully you have not had to work with anyone that takes it as a personal attack when you double check or ask questions. I've dealt with some really touchy people on that subject. I have worked with some people that think they walk on water, and those are the kind of people I don't like working around. The thing with people double checking your work is they're just making sure you're as safe as you can be. I have no problem taking constructive criticism, and I have no problem with someone. If I put all the 123 feet of jib on that crane and someone comes up and says, hey, I want to inspect that before you boom up, have at it. I would encourage it. I would not take offense to that. Jason Hill says, great videos. Thanks for the channel. You and Ron Pratt are great to watch. I appreciate that. And Ron he's a great dude, and he does have a fantastic channel. Justin Heil, I do watch Ron Pratt and Plaza Towing. And actually, I converse with both of them outside of YouTube periodically. Skullap 88 says, I enjoy the videos. I'm an IU OE 37 here in Maryland. I work at WO Grub. You probably hear the same thing I do. All you do is sit in the cab all day. It can't be that hard. That is, I do get that. Here's my response for those people that one guy says, it can't be that difficult. All you do is sit on your butt and pull levers. My response is, I sit in here and make sure that everybody around me goes home at the end of the day and no one dies. So that's my job. My job, first and foremost, is to make sure no one dies or gets injured. So that's why I get paid to sit where I do. It's not just to pull the levers. It's to make sure everybody stays safe. Lester and Thompson, how are you doing? Says, hey, sir, I wondered if that was this old Tony inspired. It is, and I'm going to hide some stuff in future videos. So you guys keep your eyes peeled for that. And then your business, I think it was Ron Pratt that did a dual live stream with Jimmy. I did have Ron Pratt on here once, and I also had Trent on here one time. Teacher Haggis says, thank you very much. I like seeing another way of doing things. Love your work, both YouTube and crane work. I appreciate that, sir. Nathaniel Lee, thanks for stopping in. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend and a safe week. Von Hill says, I never had issues with people asking questions, even if they had much less or no experience with it. Would rather answer a stupid question than have an accident. And the only stupid question is the unasked question. I don't have a problem answering. You guys know that. I don't have a problem answering questions about anything. If I don't have the answer to it, I'll find it. Woofy W, exactly. It never hurts to have a second pair of eyes on things. Jim Harris, at the end of the day, the crane operator was the cleanest person on the job site. Cleanest, but probably the most mentally fatigued. It can be. I've had days where I was just mentally fried at the end of the day. Doing stressful stuff or super precise stuff, where you're constantly concentrating and you don't get a break from it. Those days will mentally exhaust a person. TF, how are you doing? Says, well, good evening from an hour north of Kansas City. John Myers, have you ever had a job where you refused to do the pick? I have. Typically, it's weather related. Nathaniel Lee asks, when are you going to be live streamed? I'm not sure what you're asking there. I mean, when my next one's going to be, I'm thinking about just doing these once a month. So, Lester Thompson says, what happened to the Canadian fellow you did a live stream with? That's Chris Conkle with Construction Cronies. He's still got his YouTube channel up and going. Brian Gardner says, I liked how you slipped the subscribe on the cover of the tower. Then I was just playing around with stuff. I used to use Adobe Premiere Elements 2018. Actually, let me back up. When I first started the YouTube channel, I used HitFilm Express. And HitFilm Express is a free program that you can download and purchase add-ons for it. And it is very in-depth, especially for a free software. It is unreal how much stuff you can do with it. And it's also very time-consuming. So I switched to Adobe Premiere Elements 2018, and it's a lot faster program as far as adding stuff and getting your edit done. On there, I can probably kick out a video in 2 or 3 hours. However, it doesn't have near the functionality that HitFilm does. So that last video, I edited it in HitFilm, and that's where I was able to add some of the little shortcut stuff. So I'm really going to push myself to learn the ins and outs and the intricacies of HitFilm Express. That way I can try to utilize more of that stuff in it. Oh, Nathaniel Lee, when is the next one? I'll just plan on doing another live stream a month from now, unless something comes up between now and then. TF, how far from Hiawatha, Kansas am I? We're about 60 miles. No, about 50 miles east of Hiawatha. Vonnie Hill says, I have to admit, when I saw you put the subscribe on the cover, I thought you were using it as a cover up. And I was. I thought that was a good place to put it. And Von Hill says, then I saw the strobes and understood what you were doing. None of your business says, do you think you could possibly live stream a job one day? I don't think I would do that. I mean, I've live streamed from inside the crane, but I was sitting still doing nothing. So I probably won't live stream an actual pick. There's a few reasons for that. One is I don't want it to draw attention away from me. Babysitting I'd have to use my phone. It's actually in the OSHA standard that I can't let it distract me. So whenever I'm recording in that cab, I'm not being distracted by the camera. I just hit record and I do my thing. I might talk through it and narrate, but it's not distracting me. It's actually probably keeps me more focused because I have to explain to you guys exactly what I'm doing, so I'm not missing much. But also, if something catastrophic were to happen, I wouldn't want that to be broadcast on the channel. Like, God forbid something happened where someone was killed. I would not want that on the YouTube channel. It would generate a tremendous amount of views, which that's part of the society we live in. Some people watch NASCAR because they want to see the wrecks. But when someone gets injured or killed on a job site, I don't care where it's at. I take that pretty to heart. So that's why I wouldn't live stream a pick. Mike Shuttler, have you ever had to take a crane out of service due to broken strands in the wire rope? Typically, where we would encounter broken strands is on one of our Brodersons, and I'll just cut a foot off the rope and re-reeve it. But I've been on a job where a rope got broke mid-pick, and it didn't break all the way through, but broke most of it. And I was the one that saw it. I wasn't in the seat. There was a different operator in the seat. What happened is he two-blocked his pill into the end of the boom or his ball, and it popped 4 of the 6 strands, I think. And he was still continuing extended boom out and cabling down. I'm like, dude, you better put that on the ground. I said, your rope is broke. And sure enough, it actually tore up the end of the boom on an IC200 and just almost cut his rope in half. Almost broke it in half. Brian Gardner says, people who think all you do is pull levers, they don't understand how much you use your mind. That's a fact. Woofy W says, could you please post a link to the editing software in the video description after the stream is over? Thanks in advance. I'll see what I can do with that. If for some reason I space out and forget it, hit Film Express. If you Google it, it'll take you right to it. TF, it's better to be safe than sorry. That's a fact. Von Heels, that is absolutely true. Said when the crane has a load, there is no room for anything else to be going on within the radius of the crane other than paying attention to the load. Nathaniel Lee says, if you haven't already seen the new video, you guys go ahead and watch. I'm assuming, is that the link to the tower section video? Irishman01 says, have you done any more work on the hammer? I am going to start work on the hammer next weekend. I'll actually set up the camera and do some recording, and I'll throw that video up the following Monday. And that way you guys can see how far it's progressed and where we're at with it. Skullap 88 asks, how do you like the Tadanos compared to other makes? I run a Liebherr every day and I'm spoiled by that thing. I really like the Tadano. I've operated all the major manufacturers' equipment, and I really like that Tadano. It's a great machine, and their product support is fantastic. Like, unbelievably fantastic. If I got to call them for something, I can call them at 3 o'clock in the morning and someone will answer the phone and help me work my way through a problem if I had to. I've got about 12 different phone numbers stored in my phone, and they make a great machine. David Dragoni, how are you doing? Says, grew up around draglines years ago. Broken ropes were a common occurrence. I could see that on dragline. Alex Eganberger says, what is the name of the YouTube channel the hammer will be on? It's actually just called Thor's Hammer, and I haven't hammered for several months. It's been pretty hot to be out in my garage welding on 1,500 pounds of plate steel. But now that it's cooling off, it's time to get going on it again. Me says, appreciate you answering my question on the wire rope end connection. Name is Carl. Well, welcome to the channel, Carl. And I'll make a video of that, how it's terminate, or how the ropes terminated on the ends. I'll actually make a video comparing that to a conventional Beckett with a wedge, and I think it'd make an interesting video. TF said it makes a difference when you have good customer service. That's a fact. Smedco says, hey, Jimmy, thanks for answering my question about the hoist camera lights, by the way. You're welcome. Thanks for asking the question. I mean, I encourage you guys to ask questions. That's how we all learn, and I appreciate everybody being involved and watching the content. Lester and Thompson says, thanks for your time. Family first. Catch you on the next one. Oh, yeah. Where do I order stickers? Thanks in advance. Shoot me an email, Lester and Thompson. Linda Sherman, have I ever worked on one of I don't operate tower cranes. No, thanks. Tower cranes are not my thing. TF says every time I watch, I learn something new. Touch and Go 72. So much for talking about rarely doing accident recovery. Yeah, I mean, we rarely do accident recovery. I think I've worked at this particular company for about 3 years, and this is the first one that we've actually gone out and done. Von Heels. I haven't had to put the strobe on for quite a while. We haven't done any night work. But last time I used it, it's still working good. TF says, Terry's the name. I'm 62 and still learning. And I mean, I'll be learning until I die. I mean, it's just the way it is. I feel like if a person puts themselves in a position where they think they know everything about their field, it's time for them to switch fields, because at that point they're going to become complacent and probably get themselves or someone else hurt. Andy, be anything higher than a step ladder, you're on your own. I am not a fan of ladders. Brent Stoudemire says, I've always wondered, maybe you know the answer to this. What do tower crane operators do if they have to take a dump? Climb all the way down and just use the portage on? They typically rope it down in a bucket. That's how that generally works. So I've got some other news too. I was going to mention this earlier and I completely forgot about it. Those that have seen my truck videos as far as working on my Dodge Ram, I got rid of the Dodge Ram. I was gonna do a bunch of stuff to it. I was gonna delete it and all that, and then now the EPA's gone crazy on deleting diesel trucks and made it basically impossible. And I was driving that truck 12 miles a day to work. Actually, about 12 miles round trip. It was just way more truck than what I needed. So I got rid of it. So now we got a new one to play with, but it'll be a little while before I start doing anything crazy with it. None Your Business says, is G5 still around? G4 is still around and growing. I actually talked to Randy on the phone the other night. But yeah, so there won't be any more working on the Dodge Ram truck videos because I don't have the Dodge Ram with the Cummins anymore. I replaced it with a G4. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. But I replaced it with a 2017 GMC Sierra with the 6.2 in it. So it's got the 420 horse, 460 foot-pounds of torque, 6.2 in it. Brian Gardner says, I think Lee Bear is making an elevator that fits inside the tower for the operator. That wouldn't be all bad. None Your Business. Speak of the devil. I think Randy with G4 was probably just hanging out in the background watching. Linda Sherman says Ram 2500 tried to run over my Explorer once. That would be pretty scary. Just me. Says, I guess I'm getting old. My Pro Street love sits because of the comfort of my Tundra. James Bergeron, how are you doing? TS says, when they informed death, they hurt a lot of people. Yeah. G4 with the devil fit. Yep, Brian Gardner, lurker. G4 was, I think he was lurking. He says he literally just jumped on, but I'm not buying it. Smedco says that GMC is a nice truck. You'll be happy with it, I bet. So far, I'm really happy with it. It rides like a car. It's pretty fast. I think it knocks 0 to 60 off in right around 5.5 seconds. So it's pretty quick, especially for a truck. Chris 7601 says, how do you find out the weight of an object before picking it up if nobody knows the actual weight? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. We're allowed to pick up to 75% of our capacity of an unknown weight. So, for instance, if we had a piece sitting out there and we didn't know what it weighed, and I was rigged up and configured to pick 100,000 pounds, I could put up to 75,000 pounds on that piece to see if it would come off the ground before I have to stop picking it. If it doesn't come off the ground at 75,000, then we have to start calculating and seeing exactly how much it does weigh. The other option is to look up the materials involved and just start putting pencil to paper. KW900 says, why not lift a porta-john up to the tower crane when nature calls? I would guess sometimes nature would call faster than what you could get a porta-john rigged up and hoisted up there, and then you wouldn't have anything to set it on, so you would have to climb into the porta-john while it was hanging off the hook. Von Hill said, I'd be interested to know how that elevator concept would work. I imagine it would have to climb on the tower. You would only work for instances where the tower does not need to grow with the building. I'm not sure how that would work out. Smedco says that Brian Gardner Palpatine makes the elevator in a tower for conventional non-self-erecting towers. Woofy W asks, any updates on your grandmother's overpriced brake job? Her brakes are doing fine. I haven't heard anything at anybody. I took that video down because it was causing so much conflict, but so far our brakes are fantastic. James Bergeron says, I'm doing okay here. We had a bad situation here in Louisiana. Yeah, I saw that with the Hard Rock Hotel. We were actually talking about that earlier. None of your business. That's a good point. G4 Outdoors. You mean people actually need math when they grow up? Sometimes. We, as crane operators, we do a little bit of math. School App 88, don't stand under the tower cranes. You might get hit with the yellow rain. David Rigoni, is that what you guys were talking about when discussing how much weight each crane had? Are you talking about in that video? Von Hills, those emergency situations are when you hope no one you like is below the cab. Brent Stonemeyer says he used to use a crane for tree removal, and tree removal can be pretty sketchy. Said almost never knew the weight, always an educated guess, a bit scary at times when I was picking close to max radius and not sure of the weight. And that's why tree removal can be sketchy. There are calculations you can do for different species of trees and log diameter and whatnot. My rule of tree stuff is when in doubt, cut it smaller. ADB, if I look down, I would need a porta-john. If I look down, I wouldn't need a porta-john. The problem would already be taken care of. I would need a new pair of pants. Brian Gardner says Liebherr makes a portable tower crane that sets up like a regular truck crane. I think it'd work great for lifting AC units because the operator cab is on top. And I could see that being a benefit for the operator to be able to see. But realistically, if you've got a good signal person, the operator doesn't need to see anything. Linda Sherman says, asked about tower crane because I actually saw one collapse years ago when I was working in San Francisco, but I'm really nervous about being around them. Tower cranes are probably, and I may strike a chord with somebody on this, but tower cranes are probably safer than mobile cranes on a job site. Their foundations are engineered. There's a lot of, when a tower crane goes up, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I mean, the foundations are engineered. They typically do a study on the ground before they place it, where with a mobile crane, we roll in, we pick what we feel is the best spot and just set up and go with it. There's pick plans and stuff involved, but really with a tower crane, as long as everything is done to the way it's supposed to be done, operators procedure, or manufacturers procedures followed and whatnot, tower cranes are probably the safest ones up there. I'm still not climbing up one, but David Gurney says, yep. So when we were talking on the radio making that pick, like when I told Mike how much weight I had, I was just letting him know how much my end of the tower weighed. And that way the guy in the other crane would know about what to anticipate. And it's always nice to get some feedback. If you're doing a 2-crane pick, it's always nice to get feedback from the person that's already got their piece off, or their end of the piece off the ground. That way you're not just yanking it up off the ground on your side. Trying to get caught up on comments here. Josh Wellner says, on tree jobs, crane operator runs it. That job is that simple. On any job I'm on, if I'm in the seat and it pertains to that crane, I'm in charge. I don't let people take that power away from me, and it's not a power trip. Some people probably think it is, and I've gotten into arguments with people on job sites about it, and they probably think, man, this guy's just got an ego. It's not a matter of that. I know what the machine's capable of. I've got the load charts in front of me, and that's what I've been trained to do, is to operate that machine. Typically, when I'm on a job, I'm working with someone that is educated in a different trade and maybe has worked around cranes, but they don't have as much knowledge about that machine as I do. So if I'm on a job and something's going on my hook, I'm in charge, period. And that's the way it is. And that's the way it should be. Brian Gardner says, from what I can see, the dangerous part of tower cranes is assembling and disassembling. And really, as long as you adhere to those manufacturer's instructions, they're not even really dangerous during assembly and disassembly. You just got to not get in a hurry. You got to not put dollars ahead of common sense. Follow the Grow. How are you doing? Says, how much does a level 2 crane operator make? The crane operator can make as little or as much as they want, really. It depends on your marketplace, what rig you're in, and how much you work. It's not hard to make a 6-figure salary sitting in a crane seat. Jason Heltzley, how are you doing? Says, good evening, Jimmy. Sorry I've missed that few streams. It's okay. We're always going to do more. Von Heel says it's probably best practice to use the crane with the highest capacity to lift first, just to make sure you know about what you're dealing with. And I prefer, and this is kind of backwards, but like if I'm lifting bridge beams with a smaller crane, I prefer to let them get their end up. And with a bridge beam, it's going to be equal weight both ends. I mean, it's a long piece of concrete, and it's going to be equal weight both ends. But I prefer to let the small crane get their end up first, and then I'll sneak up with my end. And the reason why I do that is if I pick my end up and then they grab their end, and for some reason it shifts on them as they're picking it up, it can actually take them over. If I have my end 4 or 5 or 10 feet off the ground and their end runs away from them, then the whole beam is pulling on them at that point. Versus if they just pick their end up and they get it situated where they're comfortable with it, and then I hold my radius and sneak it up, then there's less chance of that beam moving on their end. Hope that makes sense. But something like this, where it's an unknown weight and the tower section is loaded a little differently, really both cranes were well within their capacity on that cleanup job. At the radius I was at, I was good for 67,000, I think. So we had way more than enough. G4 says, you said the piece wasn't level. It's a cone, Jimmy. Oh, good point. None of your business, a tower crane operator on your stream would be a good live stream. I've become good friends with a tower crane operator out on the West Coast. We've talked back and forth on the phone and texted, and he's a subscriber on the channel. I mean, I would like to get him on here sometime if he would jump on one. I'll talk to him and see what he thinks. He's a tower crane operator. Chef Matt says, Jimmy, that wind turbine tower section, is the wall thinner at the base of this section in relation to the top of this section? I think they use the same thickness material from one end to the other. The flanges are different thickness, and it's also a taper, so it's smaller in diameter at the top end than at the bottom end. But I think the wall thickness of the material is actually the same, consistent all the way through. TF says, Jimmy, time to go eat. Thanks again for everything. God bless. Be safe. Well, thanks for being part of it all. Touch and Go 72 says that recovery lift was neat to watch. The communication when you said you could not see was cool. Most of your pics have been hand signals. And that's typically it is hand signals. I did a night work video a while back that it didn't go so well because you couldn't really see anything. Well, because it was nighttime and the computers in the cab made a lot of glare, but there was a lot of radio chatter on it. Jason Heltzley says, been doing pretty good. Just living the dialysis life. Been doing quite a bit of fishing, trying to fill my freezer for the winter. How's the hammer coming? I'm going to work on the hammer next weekend. I'll post a video a week from tomorrow. So I'll show you guys where it's at and how I'm coming along with it. Linda Sherman says she has to go. Thanks for stopping in. Cameron Irwin just started operating, taking my test tomorrow for tower cranes, operating a Peltane T85. Have fun with the tower cranes. Start a YouTube channel. Put a camera up there with you. Drew Bradley, how are you doing? It's been a pretty active live stream tonight. I think at one time we had 75 people on here. I wonder. Oh, Blue Line Landworks just sent me a picture of his elk. Holy smokes. So let's see if we can get that up to everybody. That's Blue Line Landworks. That's his biggest elk he's shot. That's a big one. If you guys haven't checked his stuff out, he's got some fantastic drone footage. Chef Matt says, Jimmy, any advice for rotator operators? The biggest or the best advice I could probably give to a rotator operator is take some rigging classes, because that seems to be like Ron and Trent. They do a good job with their rigging, and Pepe's, they do a pretty good job with their rigging. But I would think that rigging would be the place that would get a rotator operator in trouble. Drew Bradley says, silly question. Could you install a clamshell or grapple on your crane, or would that beat the heck out of your rig? I could install one on there, but it's not really designed for duty cycle work. I mean, I could operate it and do some stuff with it, but you wouldn't want to run it with its ears pinned back for 10 or 12 hours a day doing duty cycle work. Just me said, noticed on some jobs, the gentleman giving you hand signals was a bit off on his signals. Why doesn't the oiler do this? Sometimes I'll have my oiler go do signaling. If it just depends on the situation. I'm not going to put my oiler on a roof to signal me if I don't have to put him on the roof to signal me. Typically, the oiler works under the direction of the operator, and I generally want to keep them somewhere in the vicinity of the crane. You know, if I'm making a pick that I need them to watch outriggers or whatever. But there are times when I'll be like, hey, I'm getting signals out here from a guy that's basically giving me gang signs. And so why don't you go out there and signal me on this job? So sometimes the oiler does go do the hand signals. James Bergeron says the recovery video was a cool video. I don't know how much more of that I'm going to get, though. Like I said, I've been working for this company for 3 years, and this is the first real recovery that I've done as far as pulling stuff off of a highway. And the recovery video is still going strong, so there's that. Be curious to see how it's doing on YouTube, where it was shared on that heavy wrecker page. I can't access it because it's a private group, but I guess there's a page on Facebook. There's a page on Facebook that's, I'll see if I can find the name of it. Maybe one of you guys has access to it. Trent sent me a picture the other day of where it was shared on there. Let's see. The Heavy Duty Elite is a private Facebook page, and that video was shared on there. So I'm curious how it's doing on that. Brian Gardner says, isn't most duty cycle work for lattice boom cranes? That and boom trucks. You know, flying trusses is duty cycle work. Concrete buckets is considered duty cycle work. And I've done some of that with our big crane. The boom is really heavy on that 200-ton Tadano. And so it's slow in comparison to a lot of the other cranes. That's Medco. Burn all the paint off the hydraulic oil tank doing that duty cycle stuff. Von Heel says, would you rather send the oiler to do signals or just give the person a radio to tell you what they want you to do? And I mean, again, it just depends on the job. Just me says, do you have a constant oiler that you have built a good teamwork strategy? Mike typically is my oiler on job sites, and he and I work fantastic together. And I can really have anybody as my oiler as long as they can drive a truck, have a Class A CDL. We've got a guy now that's green to the crane world, and he doesn't know much of anything about cranes. He's learning very fast, and he's doing a good job. But when I have him with me, I have to really pay attention to where he's at and what he's doing and how he's doing things. And I will have to do that until he gains some more confidence and some more knowledge. So it's extra things for me to worry about. When I've got Mike with me, I don't have to worry about where he's at because I know he's not putting himself in a position where he's going to get hurt. Smedco says best is when there's 5 different people handling a load, giving different signals. Yeah, that's always fun. Andy B says, how far was that cleanup job from your office? It was about an hour and 45-minute drive by crane. Soldier of Dirt 81, how are you doing? Says, see you at Con Expo, Jimmy. I am still going to try to make it out there. I've got an invite from one of the subscribers on the channel that said I've got a place to stay when I get there. So Chef Matt says, "What are your thoughts about the Miller Industries 100-ton rotator they unveiled?" I haven't actually seen it. I mean, I've seen pictures of it, but I mean, I don't. I'm not a rotator guy, so a 100-ton rotator. I don't know what its capabilities are in comparison to a 100-ton crane. I know I can pick it up. Actually, if I rigged the Tadano upright, like if I rigged it up correctly, you could probably. Well, you could. If I had the Tadano rigged correctly, you could pick up 100 tons with that rotator, and I could pick that rotator and its 100-ton capacity up, or whatever it had hanging that was 100 tons. So I know where the differences lie as far as that goes, but I can't give you an educated answer on the 100-ton rotator Miller just unveiled. Von Heel says, anything where you need to be able to move quickly, hydro cranes are not the best option normally. Chris76, I do not do any pile driving with the hydro. Pile driving is hard on a hydraulic, like on a pinning boom crane or a telescopic crane. Drew Bradley says, what's the origin of the title Oiler? You touched on it a few months ago. And I just got that question, I think maybe by Chef Matt on a video. Back in the day, cranes required almost constant lubrication on their moving components. A lot of gears and gearboxes, chains, cables and stuff. They required almost constant lubrication. So there was actually a person with an oil can oiling this various stuff as the machine was operating. That name has stuck and it's been used ever since. Jason Heltzley, did I rearrange the crane cave? I did just a little. All I did is I slid my desk a little further from that back wall. This collapse says, I love when I get the scope out sign. I just shake my head and boom down. That's all you can do. None of your business. Said, where did you go, Jimmy? What do you mean, where did I go? Like right now, or where did I go for a few weeks? Jason Heltzley says, pile driving is what you have the crawler crane for. That's crawlers. They typically use crawlers for pile driving. Ryan Gardner, didn't all cranes run on gears? I think back in the steam era, most all of them were gear drive. Hydraulics weren't really a thing then. You guys are asking some pretty good questions tonight. Von Hill says, I worked with a heavy forklift operator, did not understand hand signals once. That convinced me to take a few extra steps back. Doug with Lakeside Ranch says, hey, Jimmy, good to see you. Oh, I just had something pop up here. Says, hey, Jimmy, good to see you, brother. Hope your weekend is going well. Glad to see you on here, Doug. My weekend's going pretty good. It's been a fairly lazy day today. Next week is going to be horrendous. We're going to be busy next week. Brian Gardner says hydraulics revolutionized equipment when it came out. That's a fact. James Bergeron's been getting some work done in his shop, but can't do any videos till his laptop's repaired. Chef Matt, any thoughts on using synthetic winch rope instead of steel? I get that question fairly often. I'm not overly familiar with the synthetic winch rope. I haven't used a crane that's got it on it. I've seen it. I haven't seen it in person as far as I'm not sure how it will lay on the drum in comparison to wire rope. And I'm not certain that it won't pull itself down between layers, but I'm sure they've got all that worked out or it wouldn't be being used. I could see instances where it would excel over wire rope. It's lighter. Typically for its size, it's stronger. It's less prone to corrosion, but it's also less protected when it comes to cut resistance. I don't know. I haven't used it, so I can't really give you an honest opinion on it. I know there's a lot of pros, but there's a lot of pros to wire rope as well. They've been using wire rope for over a century now. So, you know, I've got braided line on my fishing reels, and it's pretty good stuff. I would think that braided synthetic crane rope wouldn't be all that bad. Smedco, the height of technology back in the day was the introduction of a torque converter in your friction rig. Yeah, that definitely changed the game for sure. Drew Bradley says you're slewing pinion gear. How do you know when it needs changed or just change according to your meter? You can tell when it's getting worn because it will start getting a lot of backlash in it. So um, if your superstructure is getting sloppy swinging, you need to look at the pinion. Make sure your pinion backlash is set correctly, and if it is, or you can measure the gear face, you can see the gear pattern as it's wearing on the ring gear. There's a lot of things that are involved in it, but if you keep it lubricated, that thing will last a long time. And then your business says, what's the cost of wire rope versus synthetic? I don't know what that synthetic rope costs. I'm sure it's expensive. And I'm not sure how they put terminations on the end of it. I don't know if, what kind of Beckett or termination they use on the end of the rope. But I'm sure it's pretty expensive. Josh Muller said, I've seen it synthetic. From what I've seen, will chafe. That's commercial fishing. Yeah, chafe easily. That's commercial fishing. Von Heels, you ever had the joy of trying to unspool a full drum of snagged line? I'm pretty sure that's one instance that counts for a month of gym trips. I have had to unspool, not on the Tadano, but I have had to unspool a full drum full of winch cable and then rewind it, and it sucks. Soldier Dirt says, I'm still debating on publishing videos again. I haven't had a change in subs or views. I say go for it. I mean, you were putting out some good content. I say if you got the time to do it and you enjoy doing it, I say go for it. I can probably push some subscribers your way. I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can to help you grow. Um, I'm still a small channel. I'm a small fish in a big pond, but I'll do what I can to help. Chef Matt asks, how often does your crane require greasing lubricant changes? I've got auto lubers on the upper and lower, so I just have to keep those full of grease, and they lubricate a lot of the main lubrication points. Still have to grease the boom every so often. It really depends on use and environment. Typically, greasing the boom happens, 3 to 6 months. Like I said, it all depends on the environment, but changing fluids and whatnot, it can happen as often as every 6 months, and it can happen as often as every year. It all depends on how much we're using it. As Medco says, that Von Heel says that's true, especially if it's something media like 1 inch plus diameter, or a lot of it, like 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet of 21 millimeter rope would be quite the workout. BNSF 6599. What's the biggest crane you've operated? I've played around in a 2250. What is that? I don't even remember what a 2250 has for capacity. Let's look it up and see. So a 2250 is a 300-ton crawler. King 2042, do you have to factor the temperature in the lift when it gets really cold? Minus 10 to minus 13 is the cutoff. Smedco, Jimmy, your carrier auto luber hit the kingpins, or was yours built after Tadano stopped doing that? Are you talking about on the carrier? I think it hits everything on the carrier. So, Soldier Dirt, you picked up a few subscribers right here just during the live stream. I say start putting some more content out. So, Drew Bradley says, I've done both synthetic, prefer steel. Don't like the springy synthetic rope. I do run 12,000 on my rock crawler winch. Find that for horseplay, not wreckers, in my opinion. I could see that. William Jones, really my favorite brand of crane, and I've operated all of them, Liebherr, Lake Belt Grove, Tadano, and I'm partial to the Tadanos. They build a fantastic machine and have great product support. Smedco says, yes, sir, they changed it since Kessler said it needs occasional lubrication. Not a fan of that decision. So, Soldier of Dirt, if you're still watching, you've picked up some more subscribers. I guess that means that you need to start making videos again. Oh, Von Heels just asked, is that a new die-cast crane in the box, or did the box just move over there? Actually, I had it laying down and stuck underneath that, so I don't think you could see it before, but that's just an empty box. That's the box that the GR1000, which is the one on that one, the smaller one. Smedco says product support is a big deal. I'd say Liebherr has the worst in the industry, unfortunately. Von Hill said, just taunting us. Got it. So there you go, Soldier Dirt. So when can we expect the next video? And I know this YouTube stuff can be very time consuming, and it can be rough sometimes. BNSF 6599 says, used to collect die-cast cranes, sold a bunch of them, only have one left. It's the LTM 11200. I've got pictures on my phone of an 11200 with the boom broken half. So James Bergeron says he's been seeing a lot of Tadano cranes around his area lately. You're going to start seeing more and more of them. They have really jumped into the North American market. Actually, they've jumped into the worldwide market. They've acquired Terex DMAG. They're going to get into the big crawler segment. They are really set on doing a lot of growing. Cecil McKinley said, back in 2010, I went and got certified to be a crane inspector. Then I went to get my liability insurance. I still have a copy of my certificate. Never did inspect a crane. Any business got to go. Jimmy phone needs a charge. Well, thanks for stopping in this evening. Skolap 88 says, how do you feel about Tadano buying DMAG? I think it was a good idea for Tadano. It puts them into a market that they weren't already in as far as with big crawlers. I think it'll be good for all involved as long as they keep the current jobs intact. Matt Lee says, hey, Jimmy, on the drop tank video, there's no investigation on that. I mean, that was just one of those things that sometimes can happen. No outside entities would get involved with that. I mean, it didn't do any damage. No one was injured. Um, it was just a reminder of, hey, sometimes the unexpected can happen. Smedco says, don't forget about Mantis. Squirt boom crawlers are getting really popular. And that's a fact, too. Tadano bought them several years ago. So in the future, what I think you're going to see is the big players are going to be Tadano and Liebherr are probably going to be at the top of the list, followed closely with, well, Manitowoc's got some pretty big rigs out there, too. You're going to have Manitowoc, Liebherr, Tadano, and Grove are going to be the big players. David Rigoni said you mentioned it before, but where is Tadano from? So Tadano is truly a global company. They started, I think they built the first boom truck in the Japanese market in 1954, thereabouts, 54 or 58. So they've been a player, and actually they started, I believe, as a steel foundry or something along those lines in the early 1900s in Japan. As they've acquired other companies, they have reached different market segments and different areas of the world. So, like the Tadano Mantis telescopic crawlers are built in the United States. The Tadano all-terrain cranes are built in Germany. The Tadano RT cranes are built in Japan. Some of their truck cranes are built in Japan. And they have also opened up a market. They've got a small market share in another boom truck manufacturer in the United States. So they've got their hands in a lot of different places in the world. Smedco says, I hear that with your thoughts on the DMAG. Maybe they can finally get a big AT on sale instead of the Vaporware ATF 600. Brian Gardner says, I think Manitowoc is owned by Grove. And I think it's actually the other way around. I think Manitowoc bought Grove, but it's still they're intertwined. They're together. Grove and Manitowoc, National Crane are all in the same company. Drew Bradley says Terex make their own cranes or slap a sticker on other brands. Terex made their own crane. If you guys follow the crane lineage back about 30 years, you'll see that it has done this. So what has happened is where there may have been 30 crane companies, each time a crane company gets bigger, they buy another one out, and they gradually start acquiring each other until you end up with just a few crane manufacturers. But they'll take that technology, the best of the technology from the other companies, and integrate it. So trying to remember how it went down. Terex, I think, bought, who was it? Shoot, I would have to look it up. Before I get in that deep, Billy Laptop, thanks for that $25 super chat. You're pretty consistent with that, and I greatly appreciate it. It definitely does help. And whatever money I do make on this channel, I pretty much donate it or put it into equipment. Other than it is helping pay for that motorcycle that I bought. But I'm trying to remember who Terex bought out quite a while back. P&H? I think Terex bought P&H. And then Terex was acquired by DMAG, so then DMAG owns basically Terex and P&H. And so they call it Terex DMAG for a while. And then now Tadano bought the Terex DMAG line. So now it's, that's how it happens. It's kind of like car manufacturers. If you go back to the turn of the century, there was General Motors was not General Motors. There was Chevrolet, there was Buick, there was Oldsmobile, there was Cadillac, and then they were bought up by different companies, and then it became General Motors. So same thing happens in the crane world. William Jones, do you have a worst job or least favorite job thing to lift? Andy B nailed it right there with a cell tower. For some reason, I don't like cell towers. Soldier of Dirt says Manitowoc is a big player. They are a big player. They've got some big iron out there for sure. Von Heel says that a local hospital saw a boom truck that was tipped backwards about 10 degrees with the outriggers. They said it was because the boom would not boom up enough to get over the edge of the roof. They needed a different crane then. I mean, it's not permissible to lean the crane with your outriggers just because you need to clear a building. Your crane has to be within 1% a level for your load charge to be accurate. Alex Egenberger, that's terrible. Speaking of OSHA, in my hometown just had a trench collapse. Guy was 12 feet deep and was up to his waist. He did live. At least he lived. That's good for that. But trenches are nothing to play with. Chef Matt asked, what's the sketchiest moment I've had in a crane? So last year, I was doing a cell phone tower. I had 197 feet of main boom with 43 feet of swing away jib. Total tip height of 240 something. Got hit in the side with a 44-mile-an-hour wind out of nowhere. Smedco says P&H, Lorraine, DMAG, American, possibly someone forget. Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to follow where all the crane companies have gone and to who. Brian Gardner says the only one still independent is Link Belt. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures, how are you doing? Mike Judy, how are you doing? Says howdy, Jimmy. KW900 says I hauled some counterweights out of Chattanooga from a foundry to Terex in Waverly, Iowa. People don't understand how heavy those counterweights are either until you got to start trucking them around. They look like just slabs of whatever, and they're a lot heavier than what they look. Just Me says, I appreciate the time you take to educate us with questions we ask. I do my best to answer them. Like I said, if I don't have the answer, I'll try to find it. Not So 44, what's the heaviest lift I have done? 179,000-pound gas turbine generator shaft. Matt Lee says, when Tadano builds a crane, does Mercedes-Benz build the lower chassis, then send the chassis to Tadano, or does Tadano build a complete unit? I see a lot of Mercedes parts in the crane lower end. I'm not sure how that works out. I would have to get a hold of Tadano Manufacturing and find out. I know it's got a Mercedes emblem in the steering wheel and it's got a Mercedes engine in it, so I'm not 100% certain on that. Soldier of Dirt Ranger Stadium has some big cranes. Yes, it does have some big cranes. And Heavy Lift Productions on Instagram, and Facebook, he has some pretty awesome pictures of some of those big cranes. And if I'm not mistaken, Soldier of Dirt, isn't Heavy Lift Productions a buddy of yours? Von Hill says, is reducing your weight the only reason you don't carry the counterweights pre-hung, or there are other reasons? One is the biggest is that it will overload, like with those counterweights hanging on the back of the carrier or laying up on the deck, it would overload the axles on the carrier. Also, if they were hanging off the back, like say I had the boom laid in the rack over the front and I had those counterweights hanging on the back, it would try to pop a wheelie. So, and it adds a lot to the gross weight. I can move the crane fully rigged with all 110,000 pounds of counterweight. I have to do it with it boomed up over the rear, with it pinned over the rear, so the boom's sticking straight out the back, fully retracted. And I think with 110,000 pounds of counterweight, I have to be boomed down to like 40 degrees or something. And then it's got to be on a hard level surface. So basically concrete parking lot or something. But I can creep around like that if I have to change from one spot to the next, but I can't run down the road with it on the deck. James Bergeron says, during a lot of the videos, I have a chart of the hand signals for the crane that I look at. I've gotten to know where I can recognize what signals they're given. You can find those hand signals online too. They're standardized. Richard Coggins, how are you doing? Soldier Dirt says, correct, good guy. And I've chatted with him some. He does seem like a fantastic guy. Just me, he says, in California we call that a reducible load. That's true. That's the way it is here. Sergeant Troll Oof says, I'm new. Well, welcome to the channel. Von Heel says, I was thinking more along the lines where you're only working with your smaller counterweight packages. I typically, when I go to a job, I only have 2 counterweights with me. The one on the truck and the one on the dolly or on the deck of the crane. So if we have to do anything that requires more than that, we have to bring another truck. Smedco says, Grove is blurring the line with running bins, engines, transmissions, cabs, and chassis electronics. Frame and suspension is still theirs, and driveline is Kessler. 73 Diamond Rio, how are you doing? Says, hey, Jimmy and everyone else. Richard Coggins says, good, it's my birthday today. Happy birthday, Richard. Chef Matt says, I know fire engine operations hand signals fluently. I don't know any fire engine operations hand signals. Reese Isaac, how are you doing? Says, good day, Jimmy. Just discovered your channel. I've always been interested in cranes since childhood. I live near the Bucyrus factory in Melbourne, Australia. Really enjoying learning about cranes. Well, welcome to the channel. If you would like cranes, I mean, you came to the right spot. As far as I know, I'm one of very, very, very few crane channels on YouTube. Yeah, Von Heels, it's more about weight distribution. If it's on the deck, it's pretty evenly distributed. If it's hanging off the back, it's a lot. That puts a lot of weight on the back axles. James Bergeron said his birthday's next Sunday. Well, happy birthday early, James, because I probably won't be live next Sunday. 73 Diamond Rio says, got my Lima 34 crawler crane home a few weeks ago. Drew Bradley, I do not have a central tire inflation system. I don't even have a monitor for the wheels. I have to check them with a tire gauge. And I've got an air hose that I keep on the crane that I can hook up. I can unhook one of the airlines from my dolly and air up tires if I need to. So Sergeant Troll says, Craney boy, huh? Here's the skinny old Sergeant Troll. If you come on here talking trash or starting trouble, you will be ousted and you will not be here long. So consider yourself warned if you're starting trouble. Woofy W says, got to run. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for watching and being part of it all, Woofy W. Smedco says, that you are, Jimmy. Thanks for the dedication. I know there's one other channel that just started up not too long ago. It's called Beyond the Pick. He was on here earlier. He works in the oil fields, from what I can tell in his video. I think he runs a 50 or 55 ton national boom truck. But yeah, he's a new crane channel just started out. It's a smaller crane and oil. It's so far it's all oil field related. Sergeant Scholl says, okay, oh, just here to amuse. Most of the people watching my channel don't get amused by people coming on and being smart, Alex, but just throwing it out there. Soldier Dirt says, well, it's time to check out. Got to get ready for the week ahead. Have a safe week, buddy. If I can help in any way, reach out to me. I'll do what I can. Just me says, I noticed the dolly is articulated. Do you need double, triple endorsed? Nope. Because I can pin it and make it where it's not articulated, but I can't steer. If I've got the boom laying over or laying on top of the dolly, I can't steer with it pinned. King 2042 says, have you looked into doing merch? I do have merch on Teespring. There's some shirts and hoodies and stuff on there. So there is stuff available on Teespring. I haven't considered ordering a bunch of stuff in and selling it out of my house. I've got so many irons in the fire right now, I'd never be able to keep up with doing any of that. KW 900 said I do power only trucking and have had a few loads moving crane counterweights and boom sections. Really anything they take off the crane to transport to another job. Von Heel says, in my experience, getting all the equipment to the job is often the hardest part. There is a major shortage of qualified drivers everywhere. Chef Matt says, Jimmy, I do not get amused by drama queens. Neither do I. William Jones says, okay, do you have a favorite machine to operate other than a crane? I kind of enjoy getting our old 4-stick case backhoe and just tearing some stuff up from time to time. It's one of those things I can go out there and I don't have to do a bunch of math. I don't have to worry about a bunch of people getting in a position to get hurt. I don't have to worry about, all of the stuff that goes with being in the seat of a crane. And I can just jump in that backhoe and start digging and making dirt fly. So I do enjoy that from time to time. And we've got an old case 580. It's a 4-stick machine with 2 swing pedals. And I can make some dirt fly with it. Actually, I've got a video a while back of me getting after it, but it's one of those things I can just jump in it and not really think about it. Let's see. Let's see. What have I? Oh, Drew Bradley says, Sergeant Troll, please be kind. Smedco, you can keep that dolly business. Fortunate to skate around that. I wish we didn't have to run a dolly here. Just maybe we can each block Troll Boy, tap his name, and do it until Jimmy gets time. James Bergeron said the video of skid steer was good. Skid steer is a very useful machine. That video didn't get a whole lot of views. I was surprised that people didn't really tune into that. But all I was doing was spreading rock out with an 1845, and then my battery went dead before I got the job done. The battery and the camera, so that's why I had to throw some pictures up. But Alex Williams' Blind Adventure says, I think it'd be pretty cool to have a to-the-top crane action figure with fully posable arms and legs. Mr. Big, how are you doing? Von Heel said, I always hate it when I got to a job with the excavator ready to work and then someone would ask for another piece of equipment that they had not told me about. They never want to pay me for transport the second piece either. Weird how that works. Drew Bradley said rebuilt an old T-handle Yale skid steer. The old T-handles. I think Mustang made a T-handle as well. Reese Isaac, sub to Gus. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but he was a crane operator and was making RC cranes. He's gone dark 5 years ago. Huh. Scott Dominguez says, love to play in the dirt. Oh, I missed you earlier. Says, hello from Tennessee. Well, hello from an hour north of Kansas City. Sorry I missed you earlier. Yeah, I don't mind getting out and playing in the dirt from time to time. William Jones. Okay, if I get bored and I'm looking for someone to watch, any channels you recommend? Well, To the Top Crane is one of them I would highly recommend. I think he's got about 180 videos on there. So you could kill a couple weeks of your life with that. G4 Outdoors if you want some comedy, fishing, and guns. Soldier of Dirt's got some footage. He hasn't uploaded for a while, but he's got some good equipment footage, with track loaders and whatnot. This old Tony, if you like machinist videos, his editing, he has a lot of subtle comedy, and his editing is fantastic. At least I think it is. Lawn Commander, how are you doing, Lawn Commander? I guess it all depends on what you're into. Really, you can find anything on YouTube. It's unreal. The only thing that you couldn't find really before was crane stuff, and that there's other channels that have been able to collaborate with one another. Like, if you look at Elite Earthworks and Let's Dig 18, those guys have become pretty good friends because they have similar interests and whatnot, and they're able to collaborate with each other, so it helps each other grow. Where I don't really have anybody to collaborate with. It's kind of, I got to just post videos and wait till people see it. Chef Matt, the dirty joke is a pig fell in the mud. A clean joke, the pig got bathed. Just me. Yeah, if you want to see rotator work, Ron Pratt or Plaza Towing. Von Heels. That's a good rule to go by. 3 billable hours for transport. Lakeside Ranch for drone videos. He's got some fast racing drones. I don't even know how you guys control that stuff. I've watched some of his racing drone videos, and I don't even know if they're full on racing drones, but Doug, how fast those things fly? They're pretty ridiculous. I would have one wadded up in about 2 seconds. $45 miles an hour with a drone. And are you flying that first person? William Jones says, thanks. I'll be looking into these people. By the way, Ron is one of my favorite people. Ron's a good dude. I mean, they don't get much. People don't come much better than Ron Bratt. I don't know if you guys follow or are friends with him on Facebook. His wife just posted not too long ago. One of the subscribers, they've got 2 small kids that watch Ron's channel religiously, and Ron's wife sent birthday presents to their kids and basically outfitted their kids' birthday party with Ron Pratt towing gear, and the kids were ecstatic. And then the kids got to do a live conversation with Ron. Like, I think it was FaceTime or something. And I mean, Ron and his wife made these little kids' birthday party unbelievable. So people don't come much better than Ron Pratt. Lakeside Ranch, yes, first person view and 3 feet off the ground. That, I don't know how you guys do it. Chef Matt says he watches Ron Pratt religiously. James Bergeron says, I consider you and Ron Pratt as friends. I watch both your channels religiously. Lakeside Ranch, Ron Pratt, 5 stars for sure. Larry Shedd says he loves drone videos. So check out Lakeside Ranch. And I don't know if it's just me, but I keep noticing on my screen it looks like my color's bouncing back and forth. Are you guys seeing that on there? I don't know if it's the color of my shirt that's interacting with the camera or what. Cecil McKinley, this has got to go. Good show. Thanks for stopping in, Cecil. Oh, Von Hill says, yeah, it's been doing that most of the stream. Huh. I don't know what's doing it. Does it seem, I think it's my shirt. Oh, well. Technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Party mode. I can do party mode. If you guys want to see party mode. You ready for this? I hope no. Wait, is anybody epileptic? Because if you're epileptic, this probably isn't going to be good for you. Andy B, please don't take it. I'm not taking the shirt off. That's not the fast one. There's party mode. Tell me that wouldn't be distracting during a live stream if that was going on for a full 2 hours. Larry Shed says, love, Ron Pratt just found you yesterday. Von Heels, do you guys run into many roads you can't go down? I always had to be careful with the low boys that hated crowns and roads. With 8-wheel drive and 10-wheel steer, I'll pretty much just drive wherever as long as it's not super soft. Lakeside Ranch said, Jimmy, my son and I have been flying RC since he was 9 years old, 35 now. You have confidence and understand the ultimate crash is one flight away. David Rigoni, I'm actually on a desktop, so I think it's my shirt is interacting with the light and the camera that's causing it. Drew Bradley, you can look into 114th or construction equipment radio controlled extremely high-end toys. Great. Yeah, that 114th hydraulic construction equipment's very expensive. I looked at some of that stuff, and most of it's made in Germany. And I think for an actual hydraulic excavator that was 114th was right around $6,000 or something. I think before I did that, I would buy an actual Mini and convert it to radio controlled. Vanio says, I would think width of some of those back roads would pose a challenge to the crane. There are some roads that are kind of challenging. The thing is just trying to stay in the middle of them. And I've gone down some where I had tires on each side of the gravel. You just got to make sure you don't get yourself in a position where you can't get back out. Smedco, ATs are usually good at ensuring trees are trimmed on back roads thanks to the stowed jib. I have ripped some tree limbs down. Larry Shed, the highway speed is 53 miles an hour on flat ground. Beyond the Pick says, thanks for the mention, Jimmy. Been popping in and out. Have a safe and blessed week ahead. Keep up with your great work. I appreciate that, sir. And you too. I know you're working in an industry that can be dangerous, so make sure you keep yourself safe. Mike Chelsea, I like your glasses. Thanks for that. I think they're Oakley's. Oakley airdrops. When I first started the whole YouTube channel, I didn't have glasses, so I had to adjust to that. Richard Savalio, how are you doing? And I'm probably not going to be on here too much longer. It's 5 after 8 here, and probably have a little family time and get ready for the busy week ahead. Matt Lee said we recently set up a 299D skid loader with remote control was really cool, and everything was pretty much plug and play. I get asked that on the crane too. The ATF 180, you can set it up for remote, but radio controlled cranes, like full size cranes, I think would be pretty dangerous. I mean, once you take the operator out of the machine, they can't feel what it's doing. Chef Matt says you're 2 hours ahead of me. James Bergeron had a semi truck with some kind of piece of equipment on a low boy, got stuck under and wedged under an interstate overpass. That's no good. Simp, sum up American football in one sentence. Much love from the UK. I don't really watch football. I'm not a big sports fan. Richard Savalio, Jimmy finally made enough money from YouTube that he could afford to buy glasses. So Andy B says, what's coming up this week? So tomorrow I got to take our 50-ton Manitex. So it's a Manitex 50-128. Got to take it about an hour north to a job and make some picks. And then Tuesday I got to pull some 10,000-pound or 11,000-pound air conditioning units off of a casino at a 150-foot radius. So that'll be kind of a stressful day. I'll be fairly close to capacity, but we ought to have a lot of boom deflection. Wednesday, we have to set a house up in Iowa. Thursday, we have to go back to the casino and do another unit, same size, same radius. Then Friday, we have to go a couple hours east and put in some precast box culvert in a road that I'm barely going to fit on. So, and there'll be power lines involved, and yeah, that'll be a fun day. So, Larry Shed says, have a good one. Have videos to catch up on. Thanks for stopping in, Larry, and being part of the channel. Touch and Go 72 says, thanks for sharing. Have a great week. Mike Manford Payne. Drew Bradley, is it possible to place one of your GoPro cams in the underside looking forwards to watch the suspension? I can send you a GoPro if you don't want to risk your own. Complimentary, of course. No, I've been contemplating putting one under there. I just need to do it. I may do that Tuesday since we're just going to be running across town. Smedco has played with an LTM 1300 with full remote control. No one out of the 5+ crane guys there was a fan for operating it. Was excellent for building a luffing jib, though. I could see that being handy. Reese Isaac, who does your planning, you or someone in the office? Typically, it's a joint effort between me and someone in the office, and then when I get to the job, I finalize the plans. So, Lakeside Ranch, with all that said, you're not busy at all. Nope, I'm not busy at all. Some days I wonder why I'm not cloned by now. But Von Heels, yes, we do schedule multiple jobs the same day sometimes. But with that being said, it's 10 after 8. I think I'm going to shut this thing down. Go have a little family time before the busy week next week. I'll try to get another video thrown out maybe midweek. See what happens. We'll work on the hammer next weekend. Get a little video of that. I'll throw it up on the channel. So anyway, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for sharing this channel with everybody you guys know. And I mean, it's really helped this thing grow, and it blows my mind how much it has grown and how fast it's grown. I appreciate everybody's support. Oh, Drew Bradley says, thumbs up, folks. I don't even know. We got 56 likes on this one. That's pretty good. But I really do truly appreciate each and every one of you guys that watches all this stuff. And it wouldn't be possible without you guys. So with that being said, everybody have a safe and productive week. And To the Top Crane is out.